Hello everyone, Katarina here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I have for you a very simple and colorful card. This is one of my cards where I'm using my old stamp sets that I have never used before, and therefore the main component in these cards is either the coloring medium or the technique. And in today's video, it's both. The stamp set I'm using here is this butterfly stamp set from Clearly Besotted. I bought it years ago and I only use the coordinating die, never the stamps. I will be stamping on a watercolor cardstock from Canson. And for the coloring, I will be using the Sakura Koi brush markers, but any brush markers or watercolors will do since I'm going to do messy watercoloring. And I'm also going to be using a water brush pen, but this is not important. You can be using normal watercolor brushes as well. For the stamping, I'm going to be using acrylic blocks because it's easier than using a stamping tool and constantly reposition the stamp. And even though I'm stamping on a watercolor cardstock, I did not have any problems with stamping. I'm using two stamps from the stamp set, one with the bigger butterfly and one with the smaller butterfly. For the ink, I'm using the VersaFine ink in Onyx Black, which is a waterproof ink. And I started stamping. I was stamping randomly. I started sort of in the middle and worked my way outwards, switching the butterflies along the way. Since I'm going to do a messy watercoloring, which means painting outside of the lines, I made sure I kept enough space between the butterflies because I didn't want the colors to be mixing. Also, I knew I will be using a label for the sentiment, but if you want to stamp a sentiment directly on top of the panel, make sure you leave either enough space for it or stamp the sentiment first and work around it. After I was done with the stamping, I took my brush markers and I started coloring. Actually, these are all the brush markers I own from this company, well, except a few grays that I have as well. I applied the color at the edge of the wing, sort of going towards the middle of the wing, and then I took my water brush pen and I moved the color across the rest of the wing, going outside of the lines, creating the messy watercolor look. On the big butterfly, I used one color for the top wings and different color for the bottom wings, but on the smaller butterflies, I used one color. This was much easier to do, I just did not want to fiddle with it. I would say this is more controlled messy watercoloring. You could also try wet on wet technique and have more organic look. I did not want to do it because I didn't want the colors to be mixing. Also, you don't have to use stamps with butterflies. This is just what I had in my stash. If you have a stamp set with flowers or with leaves to create autumnal cards, I think that would look great. And if you want to use butterflies, even though this stamp set is no longer available, this is a very basic image. You definitely find other companies that sell stamp sets with butterflies. I will play now a little bit of music to show you all of the coloring, and I will be back once I'm done. After I was finished coloring, I was deciding if I should keep the middle of the butterfly as it is or if I should color it with a black marker. And I decided to color it. I used a fine liner for that. This one is from Faber-Castell. I think this was a good decision. First of all, butterflies are not see-through in the middle, and it also helps to enhance the color. To finish up the card, I'm going to use a heat embossed label that I pre-made. I find a heat embossing sentiment such a hassle, so I created few labels at once to have them on hand. I adhered a double-sided tape on the back of the panel with the butterflies, and on the back of the label I adhered few foam squares so the sentiment is a little bit raised. I adhered the panel on top of a white card base that I pre-cut and pre-scored. And lastly, I adhered the label. I also cut one side of the label at an angle. You could also add few embellishments like clear sequins, but I decided not to, or more precisely, I forgot. But I don't think the card necessarily needs that. So the card is finished. Just looking at the card brings me joy. I love colorful cards, they make me very happy. I hope you like this card as well and will try something similar. I would really appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up. It really means a lot to me. And consider subscribing as well if you haven't done so already. You can follow me on Instagram and Pinterest and hop over to my blog where you can find photos of the cards. All the links are in the description below. And also make sure you check out my cards from my new series. I make here cards where you don't need any stamps or dies. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.